Welcome to the demonstration video for the Pastoral Genie. Let's get started by entering our start and end dates of the period we wish to analyse. Any two dates can be used. It doesn't have to be a whole year. It can be one half term, for example, but those dates need to fall within the same academic year. We do recommend that the dates are over a long period, i.e. year to date or a whole academic year, because the Genie will break everything down into half terms. Once we've entered the dates, let's click Generate Reports. You'll then be prompted to enter your Sims username and password, the one you normally enter when you access Sims. If you don't enter a password when you access Sims in the normal manner, you should have ticked the trusted login box in your settings. Once we click OK, it will then connect to Sims. Sims doesn't have to be open at this point, or if it is open, you can carry on working. Connects to Sims and pulls out the 5 reports that the Genie needs in order to run its calculations. This process will take around 3 to 5 or 6 minutes, depending on the size of your school and the efficiency of your server. Once the process has finished, we'll click OK to continue. So the first thing the Genie has found between these two dates is it's detected some missing marks in Sims. It tells you the number of missing marks, and then it's up to the user to go back into Sims to use the Deal with Missing Marks routine within Attendance or Lesson Monitor to sort them out. The Genie completely ignores missing marks, so it will have no effect on your percentage attendance. Any dashes where the register hasn't been taken are ignored. So let's have a look at the analysis. We'll look at the group analysis first. As you can see, it's quite an in-depth group analysis across the 2 dates that we used when we ran the Genie. The membership of each group is as at the end date of the dates that have been used, so it's giving us an overview for the whole period. The groups analysed are whole school, the gender split, your current free school meals and the negative group of those, the ever sick students, pupil premium, looked after, EAL, young carer, bursary, and the different SEN groups. And then by default it will break it down into your year groups. By using any of the filters which are shown in depth in a different video, you can restrict those groups to be populated by the relevant year group or whichever filter you're using. And as you can see, when you're filtering on a year group, it breaks it down into the registration groups or classes of that year. When using the filters will apply to all analyses and the dashboard. So looking at the data that is analysed then, the first column shows you the group size, and wherever you see a yellow arrow, you're able to click through and view the student data that is underlying, and it gives a breakdown of the relevant characteristic and their detailed attendance and exclusion data. So that's anywhere you see a yellow arrow. All orange headed columns relate to exclusions, all red columns relate to attendance, and any purple columns are showing the national contextual data. The table at the top shows you the table that is being used for your dates. It will automatically detect from your dates the nearest possible statistics that are available for it. Generally, the absence statistics get updated in March, the statistical first release, and the Genie will be updated and you're able to download a new copy whenever these get updated. So looking at the data then, we'll look at the attendance first. We've got the percentage absence, so for this school with 939 students, their percentage absence rate is 3.91. The national figure for that is 5.5, which is why there is a green traffic light. Then it breaks it down to each group for that figure. Wherever there is a national figure available, it is shown. The blank columns indicate that the DFE do not publish for those groups. Then it will show you your unauthorised absence rate and the national figure, and authorised absence rate. It will also show you the percentage of holidays that have been taken. Obviously, there is no national figure for this, and the number and percentage of lates in your school. The next column shows the percentage attendance rate and the national figure that it is associated. So this school is not doing too bad. Then we're looking at the number of persistent absentees, or students that have 90% attendance or below, or a 10% absence rate and above. And of this school of 939 students, there are 44 that have been identified as persistent absentees. Now, as you can see, that has a yellow arrow, so if we click onto that, it will automatically filter the students and show you the 44 that have been identified. The next column shows the percentage of each group that are persistent absentees. So in Green Abbey School, 4.69% of the whole school are persistent absentees, and 6.7% of the boys are persistent absentees. That's a question that Ofsted very often frame on their visits. The next column shows the national figure for that. So they're 4.69 in this school as opposed to a national figure of 13.9, so they're doing rather well. The next column shows the percentage attendance of those persistent absentees, so of those 44 students, their attendance is 84.98. And the final column shows the proportion of school absence, of the school absence rate that the persistent absentees are making, so what's attributable to them, and that is 17.84% of that 3.91% is down to the persistent absentees. There is a national figure that is published for this, which is at the moment 46.2. Obviously it is subjective as to whether it's better to be above or below that figure. So exactly the same data is analysed throughout the groups, and then looking at the exclusion data, we're showing the number of days that have been lost during that period to fixed term exclusions, the total number of fixed term exclusions within the dates, and the percentage against the national figure, the number of students with one or more, and it's very likely to be the same as the first column, and the national figure, and the number of students with two or more, and there is no national figure for that, but schools do find it useful. And then the number of permanent exclusions and the percentage along with the national. Looking at our persistent absentees, this obviously is set to the DFE standard of 10% being the PA threshold, but the little red panel at the top allows you to change that threshold if in your school you look at a different one. So by clicking on the threshold, we can, for example, change the threshold to 20%, so it will look at everyone with 80% or below attendance, and after changing it will update all of the figures accordingly. To reset the threshold, simply click on it and turn it back to 10 or whatever number you wish. So that's the group analysis. If we click on ethnicity analysis, it looks exactly the same. All of the columns are the same, but it breaks it down into the DFE ethnic groups. If you should use long codes in your school, i.e. you have white English, white Cornish, white Scottish and white Irish, it will map to the DFE overview groups. It breaks it down to all of those, and at the bottom it will also show you any students where the information hasn't been obtained, or it's blank, or they are refused. Obviously these do not have national figures. All of the filters and the PA threshold, etc., all work in exactly the same manner. The attendance options panel allows you to exclude certain codes from your attendance. So if you were in a school, for instance, where religious observance was an issue or traveller absences were an issue, by ticking any of these options and clicking apply, it will rerun all of the calculations without those codes included, so you can see what an impact those traveller absences are making. It's very easy also to exclude any students from the analysis. If we go back to the group one, and this is a secondary school, so if I want to exclude the sixth form, I tick on the box and it removes those students from the calculations. Additionally, if you have identified one particular student that is causing you problems, or it might be 2 or 3, by putting a 1 in the column on the working sheet, it will discount that student from the analysis as well. So having looked at the ethnicity and the group analysis, let's have a look at the half-term analysis. So no matter what dates you put into your Genie, it will detect from your school diary the half terms that are being used in your school. So in this case, we've run the Genie from September to July, so we've got a whole year from 18 to 19. And in this school, half term 1 was from September the 1st to the 22nd of October. It will break down all of the relative groups, the same ones that are on the group analysis, and show you the overall percentage attendance for each of the groups and the group size with a click through to the students. So there were 40 persistent absentees in Green Abbey School without the sixth form in half term 1. It shows you the exclusion data for each half term, and then it moves along. So half term 2 in this school, the persistent absentees went up to 64 and the percentage attendance went down, and each half term is one after the other to the end, so you can track movement across the half terms. Just as a point of reference, the group memberships they do flow. So if, for example, you had a student that was on a K code for SEN in half term 1 and then were put onto an E code in half term 3, it would reflect that in the Genie. So the groups are shown as at each half term. So we've left our sixth form removal on. I will go into a little bit more detail about the filters. So we've shown the year group filter. There is also a visibility switch, so you can look at the data showing you it in the national curriculum year rather than the year group. Some schools have a lot of students that are taught out of year, so I found it useful to have that switch. Also, as well as the year group, if you operate a house system in your school, you can filter by the relevant house. So I'm going to pick Boyle House. It's reducing all of my numbers. Let's go back onto the group analysis. It's a little easier to show. There are 135 students in Boyle House, and it will show the student characteristics for those. Just remove the filter by putting it back to whole school, and we're back without our sixth form to our 778. Then, for instance, if we wanted to look at the breakdown of groups characteristics of boys, we can choose those. So we've got 387 boys, of which 60 of those are pupil premium. And we can combine these filters, so we can look at boys, for instance, that are pupil premium. We've got 60 of those, or boys that are pupil premium and SEN, for instance, where there are 10 of those, and we can look at their key figures. To take the filters off, just simply select whole school on each of them, and you're back to where you were. So the latest addition to the Genie is we've provided a dashboard. There's quite a lot of information in here, and there is again a separate video just like the filters and attendance options. Just a quick overview, there are various charts, quite intuitive and interactive. So for example, absence by student characteristic, we can look at it in terms of absence or attendance, up to you, and it will update. If you're choosing the absence one, you can overlay the persistent absentees on the top, so it gives you a visual interpretation of the data. Then it breaks down and shows you a graph on the persistent absentees. There's a little dashboard showing you how you're doing against the national statistics, and an overlay of the proportions that are responsible each group and the persistent absentees. And then a half-term by half-term tracker where you can choose which groups you want to look at and compare, and you can take the half-terms off. I hope you enjoyed looking at the Genie. Please do have a look at the other videos. They do go into a lot more depth for the relevant areas. Many thanks.